His name is Aliu. He is 52 years old and he teaches Islamic studies at his secondary school in Birnin Kebbi, Kebbi State. He has been at this school for 23 years. He knows most of his former students, where they went, what became of them, whether their fathers survived the bandit attacks that have been reshaping communities in the Northwest since 2018. In 2015, Aliu voted for Muhammadu Buhari, not just because Buhari was northern, because he was clean, because he lived simply, because the stories about him, refusing to take a car, refusing to eat meat except on Eid, praying at the same mosque in Daura where ordinary people prayed, those stories matched a kind of person Aliu understood and respected. He voted for character. In 2023, Aliu voted for Atiku Abubakar, not with the same certainty, with a kind of tired loyalty. Atiku was northern, the option was there. Aliu made his mark and went home. In 2026, Aliu is asking himself a question he has not asked before. When he goes to vote in 2027, who is he voting for? Not which party, not which ethnic group, but which person, specifically which type of person, reflects the values that made him drive his motorcycle to the polling unit in 2015 with full certainty in his heart. What is happening to Aliu's political identity is really about a question that nobody in the national political conversation is answering clearly enough. The North produces the largest block of presidential votes in Nigeria. Everyone knows that. But who exactly decides how the North votes? The governors, the traditional rulers, the religious establishment, the young voters who are disconnected from all three, the post-Buhari generation who has never had a candidate they genuinely believed in? The question is not just who controls the northern vote. The question is whether anyone does anymore. Before we go deeper, I just want to say thank you. Since NaijaNewsWatch started, the support, the comments, the likes, and every single subscription have helped this channel grow beyond what I imagined. If you have been enjoying these in-depth political breakdowns and you want to see more videos like this, the best way to support the channel is by subscribing. It really motivates me to keep researching, digging deeper, and bringing you clear, fact-based analysis. Now let us get into the story, because what happens next changes everything. Let us set the foundation, because to understand who really decides the North, you need to understand the specific structures of Northern political authority and how they have changed since 2015. The conventional narrative about the Northern vote goes like this. The Northern Nigeria votes as a bloc, managed by a combination of traditional rulers, governors, and the established political parties. When Buhari was the Northern candidate, the North voted for him. When Atiku is the Northern candidate, the North leans to him. The assumption is that Northern political authority is hierarchical and manageable from the top. This narrative is partly true and partly outdated. According to political analysts who study Northern Nigeria, the region's political authority has historically operated through three overlapping power structures. The first is the traditional ruler system, the emirs, sultans, obas, and district heads who command moral authority in communities and whose political guidance has historically influenced voter behavior, particularly in Northwest and Northeast Hausa Fulani communities. The second is the governor-level party machinery, which we have documented extensively across this series. The third is the religious establishment, the Islamic scholars, the Jumat mosques, the Tijananiya and Qadiriya Brotherhood networks, and in northern minority Christian communities, the Khan chapter leadership. These three structures together shaped the northern vote for most of Nigeria's democratic history. But since 2015, and more specifically since Buhari's second term ended and since his death in July 2025, each of the three structures has weakened in its capacity to coherently direct the northern vote toward any single candidate. The traditional ruler system is complicated by the Kano Emirate crisis, the political battles over the Emirate leadership that became a proxy for APC-Kwankwaso political rivalry. According to reporting on the Kano political dynamics, the Emirate institution's moral authority has been politicized in ways that reduce its credibility as a neutral voter guidance institution. The governor-level machinery is APC-aligned across almost all northern states, but according to analysts, the post-Buhari APC in the north is a machine without its original emotional engine. It can mobilize structure, it cannot replicate the identity-based motivation that drove Buhari's historical vote totals in 2015 and 2019. The religious establishment remains influential, but according to researchers who study northern Nigerian political culture, the relationship between Islamic religious authority and partisan political endorsement has become more complex since 2015, with some scholars explicitly discouraging politicization of the pulpit and others becoming more overtly political in response to security failures that communities attribute to governance failure. Now let us look at the formal institutional rules that shape the northern vote, because understanding the formal power structures tells you where the informal authority actually operates. The 1999 Constitution, Section 7, protects the institution of traditional rulers, but does not give them any formal role in the electoral process. Traditional rulers, emirs, sultans, obas, are not permitted to formally endorse candidates under the Electoral Act. In practice, they communicate political preferences through informal channels, the language of their Friday prayers, the tone of their public statements about governance, their visible presence at political events of one candidate or the other. The formal institutional authority in northern elections is the governor, the democratically elected executive whose party machinery is the most legally recognized mobilization structure at the state level. But as we have covered throughout this series, governor-level alignment does not automatically translate into presidential voter behavior, as the 2023 split ticket results in multiple northern adjacent states demonstrated. The INEC voter registration data is the formal foundation of any northern vote analysis. According to analysts who study northern Nigeria, the core north states, Katsina, Kano, Kaduna, Kebbi, Jigawa, Zamfara, and Sokoto, understand politics at a very deep level. They have high voter registration rates relative to their population. They participate in elections at high turnout rates. Their voting behavior is not passive, it is active, considered, and historically responsive to the specific qualities of the candidate on offer. The informal power structure that this formal institutional analysis misses is the one that Aliyu in Burning Kebbi represents. The community teacher, the market elder, the mosque committee chairman, the village head's personal assistant, the layer of community-level authority that sits below the traditional ruler and above the individual voter. These figures are not in any data set, they are not in any campaign strategy document, and according to researchers who have done fieldwork in northern communities, they are among the most consequential agents of political guidance in northern Nigerian elections. Now, let us go deep. This is where the question, who really decides the North, gets a precise, evidence-based answer, and where the 2027 implications become specific. Let us start with the most important single fact about the northern vote that national political analysis consistently underweights. The northern vote is not one thing, it is at minimum 4 distinct electoral environments that happen to exist in the same geopolitical space. Environment 1 is the Hausa Fulani Northwest Core, Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara, and Jigawa. This is the electoral heartland that produced Buhari's massive vote totals in 2015 and 2019. According to political analysts, this environment's voting behavior is shaped most powerfully by candidate identity, the sense that the candidate is one of them, represents their values, and has credibility within their moral and religious framework. According to former ACF Secretary General Anthony Sani, what matters here is honesty, integrity, simplicity, and a genuine vision for the people. Buhari embodied those qualities in this community's perception. According to analysts, no current major candidate does so with equivalent credibility. Environment 2, the Northeast, Borno, Yobe, Bauchi, Gombe, Adamawa, Taraba. This environment has been profoundly shaped by the Boko Haram and ISWAP crisis for over a decade. Political behavior here is filtered through the security lens. Which candidate has credible security policies? Which party has managed the counter-terrorism response? Which governorial alignment provides the most operational security cooperation? According to reporting, this environment has historically leaned APC, not primarily for ideological reasons, because the federal security apparatus that manages the counter-terrorism response is APC-controlled, and communities in Borno and Yobe have pragmatic reasons to align with whoever controls the security deployment. Environment 3, the Kwankwaso Northwest, Kano specifically, but with influence into neighboring states. According to Guardian Nigeria's analysis, Kwankwaso performed at 58.4% in Kano. This environment is defined by a specific personality-driven movement that produces votes for Kwankwaso personally with an intensity that does not automatically transfer to his running mate, his party, or the candidates he endorses. According to stakeholders quoted in reporting, Kwankwaso as vice presidential candidate on the NDC has already discouraged some of his own supporters because they followed the person, not the platform. Environment 4, the North Central Christian Minority Belt, Plateau, Benue, Nasarawa, Southern Kaduna, Kogi, Niger. This is the Middle Belt environment that produced some of the most surprising results in 2023. According to INEC's verified results, Peter Obi won Plateau and Nasarawa in 2023, driven by the defensive community voting of Christian minority communities responding to the Muslim-Muslim ticket. This environment does not follow northern political convention. It follows a different logic, one that is shaped by security grievance, religious identity anxiety, and a specific candidate appeal that Peter Obi triggered in 2023 and that the NDC needs to maintain in 2027. Now, here is the pattern interrupt that reframes the entire question. The conventional answer to who decides the North is the governors and the traditional rulers, but the 2023 presidential results show that neither category fully controlled the northern vote. Kwankwaso won 58.4% in Kano, in a state whose governor was APC. Obi won Plateau and Nasarawa in states whose governors were APC. The traditional rulers in those states did not issue counter-endorsements, and yet the candidate that produced the most surprising northern results was the one with no traditional ruler backing, no governor support, and no formal Islamic religious establishment alignment.
Obi won in northern Nigeria, precisely in the communities where none of the conventional northern political authority structures were directing their votes. The teachers, the nurses, the market tutors, the Aliu-type community members who made independent decisions based on their own assessment of the candidates. Those are the people who produced the surprising results. According to political scientists who study Nigeria, the increasing urbanization of northern Nigeria, the expansion of social media connectivity even in smaller northern cities, and the growing frustration of northern youth with the outcomes of the traditional political authority structures are creating a new voter category, the northern preference voter, who is less responsive to traditional ruler guidance, less responsive to governor patronage, and more responsive to candidate quality, governance record, and the specific emotional resonance of the campaign. The northern preference voter in 2027 is the contested prize that every candidate is trying to reach, without fully understanding that this voter is defined precisely by not being reachable through the conventional northern authority structures. The silent players in this story are three. The first is the Sokoto Sultanate. The Sultan of Sokoto commands the highest religious and traditional authority in northern Islam in Nigeria. His public communications, even when not explicitly political, shaped the information environment for millions of Muslim voters in the Northwest. His silence or his speaking on governance quality and the qualities a leader should have is more politically consequential than any APC or NNDC press conference in the North. The second is the northern youth demographic, the 18 to 35 age group that, according to the August 2024 protest data, constituted 71.6% of protest participants in Kano. These are voters who are not primarily aligned with any of the three conventional northern authority structures. They are digitally connected, economically frustrated, and politically activated, not through Jumat mosque community networks or emirate guidance, but through WhatsApp groups, TikTok political content, and the specific emotional resonance of candidates who feel genuinely different from the political order that has managed their poverty. The third is the security crisis, which is both a political and a human story. Banditry in Zamfara, kidnapping in Sokoto, farmer-herder violence in the Middle Belt, communities living under these conditions are not primarily making presidential voting decisions based on traditional patron-client networks. They are making decisions based on the most fundamental political question: which candidate, from which party, will make it safer for me to go to my farm, to drive my motorcycle, to let my children walk to school? That question, answered differently in different northern communities based on who they blame for their insecurity, is the most powerful political force in the North that nobody's campaign strategy fully captures. Now, if what I just laid out surprises you, drop a comment below. I want to know your take before we get to the part that changes the whole picture. Let us come back to Aliu in Birnin Kebbi. He voted for character in 2015, he voted with tired loyalty in 2023, and in 2026 he is asking himself who he is voting for in 2027. Not which party, but which person. Aliu represents the northern preference voter that we have just defined, the community member who is less driven by traditional political authority guidance and more driven by a personal assessment of candidate quality. His question, which type of person, is the most important question in northern Nigerian electoral politics, and nobody in the current candidate field has answered it with the specific combination of perceived integrity, austerity, and community credibility that made Buhari's answer to that question so powerful for 20 years. For ordinary northern Nigerians like Aliu, the 2027 election is not primarily about which party or which ethnic group. It is about which candidate can answer the question that Buhari answered in 2015. Are you the kind of person who will use power for the people rather than for yourself? That question, asked in different words, in different contexts, in Birnin Kebbi and Kano and Maiduguri and Jos, is the question that will produce the northern votes in 2027. And right now, according to the ACF's own public statements, no candidate is clearly answering it. For the northern economy, for Aliu's teacher's salary that does not keep up with food prices, for the farmer who cannot reach his land because of banditry risk, for the market trader whose customers have less money than in 2022, the 2027 presidential choice is a specific, practical governance question. Who manages the economy in a way that reaches ordinary northern households? Who provides the security environment that allows northern agricultural production, which is the foundation of the North's economy, to function? The international dimension of the question, who decides the North, is specific and connected to global security engagement in the region. The U.S. military conducted strikes in Sokoto State in 2025 against Boko Haram-affiliated targets. The U.S. has ongoing security partnerships with the Nigerian military for counter-terrorism in the Northeast. The U.K. and EU fund humanitarian programs in displacement communities across Borno and Yobe. These international partners have a direct stake in the political governance of northern Nigeria because the policy choices of whoever wins in 2027 will determine whether the security environment in the northwest and northeast improves, stabilizes, or deteriorates. According to U.S. foreign policy analysts, the northern security crisis is one of the most significant governance indicators that international partners track in Nigeria. A presidential outcome that produces better federal security policy in the north, clearer strategy, better resource deployment, more community engagement is an outcome that international security partners actively prefer regardless of which party produces it. For Nigerians in the diaspora from northern states, particularly those whose families are in Zamfara, Sokoto, Borno, and the farmer-herder conflict zones of the Middle Belt, the 2027 northern political story is intensely personal. The bandit raid that displaced your cousin's family, the kidnapping ransom that your uncle's community paid, the farmland that your relatives cannot cultivate because the security environment makes it life-threatening. These are not political abstractions. They are the conditions that should be shaping the northern presidential vote in 2027, and the diaspora community's ability to amplify this specific security-focused accountability argument is one of the most underutilized political resources in the entire 2027 cycle. Let me address what people on every side are getting wrong about who decides the North. The first misconception from Southern commentators and APC-aligned analysts is that the Northern vote is a monolith block that is controlled from the top and will automatically follow whoever the governors and traditional rulers align with. This narrative was always oversimplified. It is more wrong in 2027 than at any point in the Fourth Republic. According to ACF's own public statement of June 2026, Tinubu, Atiku, and Obi have all lost significant goodwill among northern voters. A constituency that has simultaneously distanced from all three leading candidates is not a constituency that is being managed from the top. It is a constituency in flux, seeking something that the existing political authority structure is not delivering. The second misconception from northern political elite figures is that the northern votes can be managed through the same patron-client structures that delivered it in previous cycles. According to researchers who study northern Nigerian political culture, the 71.6% youth composition of the August 2024 protest participation in Kano tells you something specific. The generation that is entering the electorate in 2027 is not primarily motivated by traditional patron-client loyalty. It is motivated by economic pain, security failure, and the sense that the system has not delivered for people like them. Managing that motivation through emirate guidance and governor patronage is less effective with this generation than with any previous northern electorate. The third misconception from some opposition advocates is that the northern preference voter described in this video is primarily an Obi voter. The northern preference voter is defined by independence from conventional authority structures and responsiveness to candidate quality. In 2023, some of those voters chose Obi, particularly in Middle Belt Christian communities. But in the Northwest core, some prefer a northern candidate who embodies Buhari-type virtues. Some are economically driven enough to consider whoever they believe will manage the economy most competently. The northern preference voter is not a fixed partisan constituency. It is a persuadable group looking for something specific, and the candidate who most credibly offers it will win a disproportionate share of the 2027 northern vote. Here is what to watch: the three signals that will tell you who is effectively reaching the northern vote in 2027. First signal: whether any candidate makes a specific, credible security policy announcement for the Northwest. According to political analysts, the most emotionally resonant political issue in the Northwest core states, Zamfara, Sokoto, Katsina, and Kebbi, is the banditry and kidnapping crisis that has displaced communities, killed farmers, and made rural life in these states genuinely dangerous. A candidate who makes a specific, detailed, credible security policy commitment for the Northwest, naming communities, naming resources, naming timelines, would activate the security grievance as a voting issue in exactly the communities that are most disconnected from conventional political authority. Watch whether any 2027 candidate makes such an announcement and whether it lands credibly with community members rather than just with political commentators. Second signal: Northern youth political participation rates in the run-up to 2027. According to protest data, 71.6% of Kano's August 2024 protest participants were aged 25 to 34. This demographic's political energy has been documented. Whether it converts to voter registration and eventual ballot participation, or whether the experience of August 2024, including the police response, produces political disengagement, will shape the size of the Northern preference voter pool in 2027. Third signal: whether Atiku or the NNDP campaign makes any specific community visit or policy commitment to the Middle Belt farming communities in Benue and Plateau. The Middle Belt produced some of 2023's most surprising northern results for the Labour Party. Those results were produced by community-level grievance about security, specifically the farmer-herder crisis. A campaign that speaks specifically to those communities, visiting them, naming their specific security failures, committing to specific remediation, is a campaign that is trying to activate the Middle Belt preference vote. Any candidate visit or policy announcement specifically targeted at Benue farming communities or plateau displacement zones would be the clearest signal that the campaign understands who the Middle Belt Northern voter is and what they need to hear. Best case scenario for a candidate who wins the Northern preference voter: they make credible security commitments for the Northwest banditry crisis, they visit Middle Belt farming communities and speak specifically to the farmer-herder violence, they build campaign infrastructure, not just social media presence, in smaller northern cities where the Aliyu-type voters live and make their decisions. And they do all of this while maintaining the kind of personal character image, simplicity, credibility, perceived integrity that Buhari's voters were responding to in 2015. That candidate wins a northern vote share that no poll currently predicts for any opposition candidate. Worst case scenario: all three major candidates rely on conventional northern political authority structures, governors, traditional rulers, established party networks to deliver their northern results. The northern preference voter, the Aliyu in Birnin Kebbi, the 28-year-old in Kano who marched in August 2024, is not specifically reached by any campaign. Their vote either goes to whoever the conventional authority points them toward, or they stay home. And the northern vote in 2027 is decided by patron-client networks that are weaker than in any previous election, producing a messier, more fragmented, less predictable result than any model projected. Let us come back to Aliyu in Birnin Kebbi. He voted for character in 2015, he voted with tired loyalty in 2023, and in 2027 he is asking who he is voting for, specifically which type of person. Here is the honest answer to his question, and to the larger question this video has been examining. The North decides presidents. That's historically documented and remains true. Nigeria's constitutional spread requirement combined with the North's population and voter registration density gives the Northern vote a national weight that no other single region matches. But who decides the North is no longer a simple answer. It's not the governors. The 2023 results showed they don't control the presidential vote even in their own states. It's not the traditional rulers. Their influence is real but declining, particularly among younger voters. It's not the religious establishment, whose political role is more complex and more contested than the conventional narrative suggests. What decides the North in 2027 is the specific intersection of four things: the structural vote produced by governor machinery, the preference votes produced by candidate quality and community grievance activation, the post-Buhari identity vacuum that no current candidate has credibly filled, and the security crisis that has made ordinary northern life in the Northwest and Middle Belt more dangerous than at any point in the democratic era. The candidate who most effectively reaches the preference voter, who speaks specifically and credibly to the security crisis, who projects the kind of personal character that Aliyu was responding to in 2015, and who builds visible community presence rather than relying on governor machinery, that candidate wins the northern vote that determines the presidency. My measured conclusion: no current candidate has definitively won the northern preference voter. The post-Buhari vacuum is real. The ACF has said so publicly. The security crisis is real. The economic pain is real. And the northern electorate, despite everything that political analysis assumes about its predictability, has demonstrated in 2023 that it is capable of producing results nobody predicted. Whether 2027 produces another such result depends on whether any candidate does the specific work in the specific communities that would earn the northern preference vote rather than assume it. The question I want to leave you with is this: based on what you know about the northern political landscape, the governors, the traditional rulers, the post-Buhari vacuum, the security crisis, the northern youth who marched in August 2024, who do you think is best positioned to win the northern vote that actually decides 2027? Drop your honest answer in the comments. Before you go, I just want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with NaijaNewsWatch today. Your support means more than you probably realize. Every view, every thoughtful comment, every like, every share and every subscription helps this channel continue to grow and gives me the motivation to keep researching and creating balanced, in-depth documentaries about Nigerian politics. If today's video gave you a clearer understanding of what is happening beyond the headlines, please share it with someone who would appreciate it too. Thank you for being part of this community. I'll see you in the next documentary. Until then, stay informed, keep asking questions, and as always, stay sharp.